A Jewish grandmother is giving directions to her grown grandson who is coming to visit with his wife. You come to the front door of the apartment. I am in apartment 301. There is a big panel at the front door. With your elbow, push button 301. I will buzz you in. Come inside, the elevator is on the right. Get in and with your elbow, push 3. When you get out, I'm on the left. With your elbow, hit my doorbell. Grandma, that sounds easy, but why am I hitting all these buttons with my elbow? What, you're coming empty-handed? I would prefer to die peacefully in my sleep, like my grandma, not screaming in terror like her passengers. What is the similarity between a grandmother and a website? You can't deny the cookies. I asked my grandpa, after 65 years you still call grandma darling, beautiful and honey. What's the secret? Grandpa, I forgot her name 5 years ago, and I'm scared to ask her. Before her grandma died, her last words were, "Don't keep the funeral too early, I am not a morning person." My grandma loves Rihanna's song about forgetful grands. She always sings along and says, "Oh Nana, what's my name?" What did grandma and grandpa do before there was the internet? I mean, didn't they get bored? I asked my 32 uncles and aunts, but they didn't know either. Every time my grandma sees me at weddings, she always walks up to me and say, "You are next." I have decided to tell her the same thing but at funerals. So I asked my grandma where the office is located to take my grandpa for his Alzheimer's appointment. She forgot. Guess the appointment's for 2 now. My grandma's bedtime is 3 hours after she falls asleep on the couch. My grandmother asked me about my long-distance relationship. I told her, so far, so good. A 6-year-old was asked where his grandma lived. Oh, he said, she lives at the airport, and when we want her, we just go get her. Then, when we're done having her visit, we take her back to the airport. What did the grandma say when her grandson asked a question about gravity? It is a pretty attractive field. What is it called when your grandma becomes an irritating Facebook woman? Sharon is Karen. I asked my grandma if she had any jokes. She responded that she had 6 of them, pointing at her 6 children. Why did the grandmother throw the watch out of the window? She wanted to see time fly. I asked my grandmother how she's enjoying her new stair lift. She said, "It's driving me up the wall." My grandma was talking about the good old days and said, "In my day we could leave the door unlocked and not worry about it. And we grew up with nothing but we were happy." I replied, "Well grandma, I hate to break it to you, but you grew up with nothing because you kept leaving the door unlocked." My grandma has been walking 5 miles a day since she was 57. She's 92 now, and we have no idea where she is. My grandma died peacefully 93 in the chair. Nice way to go. The dentist was very upset though. "Grandma, how old are you?" The woman never reveals her age, she replied to her young grandson. He said, "All right, just give me the first digit." 6, she said. "And the second?" Grandma sighed. 7. "And the third?" My grandma told me her joints are getting weaker. So I told her to roll them tighter. Shout out to my grandma. Because that's the only way she can hear me. A girl is singing her favorite songs. Her grandma comes in the room and says, "Oh, that was you. I thought it was the radio." "Girl, and you came to listen, Granny?" "Grandma, no, I wanted to turn off the radio." On her deathbed, the last words that my grandma told my grandpa was, "Honey, I'll see you in heaven." Since then, he's been kicking puppies and robbing stores every day. Grandmas put wheels on their rocking chairs so that they can rock and roll. How did grandma describe her cataract surgery? It was an eye-opening experience for her. When my grandma died, I had her cremated and put her ashes in a trophy that said "World's Best Grandma." She earned it. A boy is writing a paper on childbirth and asks his grandma, "How was I born?" His grandma awkwardly answers, "The stork brought you." "Oh," says the boy, "Well, how were mommy and daddy born?" Well, the stork brought them, too, and your grandpa and I." The boy begins his paper. This report has been very difficult to write due to the fact that there hasn't been a natural childbirth in my family for 3 generations. I like Ouija boards. It's the only game I can still play with grandma. What is the worst response to "I love you"? "I'm still pulling the plug, grandma. My sister put our grandma on speed dial." I guess now we can call her Instagram. My grandmother was a math teacher. We were discussing infinity the other day, and it kept going on forever. "Hey grandson, what's the name of that German man who makes me go crazy?" "Alzheimer, grandma, Alzheimer." The boy is loudly praying, "God, please give me a bicycle." His mom asks, "Why are you praying so loudly?" "God isn't hard of hearing." The boy replies, "Yes, but grandma is." "Did your grandma give you her bread recipe?" "Yes, we often trade recipes on a need-to-know basis." My grandmother offered me a melon for my evening snack. I was feeling melancholic. My brother was feeling shy while singing karaoke in front of the whole family. Grandma said, "Don't be shy, just duet." My father told my grandmother every day that she needs a new hearing aid, but she would not listen. Why do grandmas smile all the time? Because they can't hear a word you're saying. My friend told me his family was having a 92nd birthday party for his grandma. I said, "That's awesome, but you can't really have much of a party in a minute and a half." A dying grandma tells her grandchild, "I want to leave you my farm." That includes the barn, livestock, the harvest, the tractor, and other equipment, the farmhouse, and $24,548,750.45 in cash. The grandchild, absolutely floored and about to become rich, says, "Oh grandma, you are so generous. I didn't even know you had a farm." "Where is it?" With her last breath, grandma whispered, "Facebook. My grandma is kind of like the Chinese government. Visitors only see the nice china. I just heard that my grandma has finally stopped smoking. We can collect her ashes tomorrow. My grandma is 80% Irish. People call her Iris." Grandma was making lasagna when suddenly an entire US division came crashing through her door. She put a little too much oil in the lasagna. How come grandmas are so good at learning different languages so quickly? They are always grammatically correct. What changed grandma's opinion about heart transplants? She had a change of heart. I suggested that my grandmother throw a space-themed party. She's asked me to plan it. My grandmother retired from the job of a math teacher. She is figuring out the aftermath. My boss at work said to me today, "Do you believe in the supernatural and life after death?" "Yes, I think so," I replied. He said, "I thought you probably would. Yesterday after you left early to go to your grandmother's funeral, she phoned up to talk to you. An old man is lying on his deathbed. When he smells the delicious aroma of freshly baked apple pie, he calls over his grandson and whispers, 'Boy, go ask your grandma for a slice of that pie.' The boy scampers off and returns a minute later, replying, 'Grandma says no, it's for after the funeral.' Since it started snowing, all my grandma has done is stare through the window. If it gets any worse, I'll need to let her back in." As a family, we couldn't decide whether to have grandma buried or cremated, so in the end, we let her live. Gary Delaney. I keep telling my grandma that she needs hearing aids, but she just won't listen. My grandma just asked me, "Son, what's your retirement plan?" I said, "It's you." An old woman is lying on her deathbed when her youngest granddaughter, holding back tears, says to her, "I love you, Grandma." The old woman replies, "Oh yeah? Name 3 of my albums." My grandma changed her hair color while taking a nap. She died peacefully in her sleep. Why was grandma in such a hurry while making pasta sauce for the dinner? Guests, it was already 8 p.m. and she was running out of time. Have you heard about the grandma who recently went through brain surgery? She was reluctant at first, but later changed her mind. Have you seen the sweater my grandmother made me? It's pretty knit.